All right, well, good morning, everyone. Finally got the thing to work today. Still Mercury retrograde for another couple days here. Well, 2 more days, I think. And then things should start settling down a little bit. Well, in any event, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 29th day of July, 2019. Well, if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you've come back, thank you, thank you, thank you. Click subscribe. I'd love you to do that if you haven't. Join our Tarot and Rune family as we explore how tarot and runes affect our lives and maybe make them a little bit better. Last week we had a lot of stuff going on with Mr. Mueller's testimony, and it seemed like the cards just keep us going in that same direction of shared purpose and a rejection of division and hate. Understanding that unified consciousness is our true reality. So why not manifest that here while in form? It would certainly make for a much more comfortable experience, I think, instead of seeing the other side of self. But that seems to be the trend of the cards. Now today we have an 11 energy with the 29th day that reduces to 11, and we don't want to reduce that any further because it's a master number. 11, 22, 33, those are master numbers, and they carry more weight than simply in their reduced form. 22 is considered the master builder. It's a double, an amplified version of the 11. And so it's said to carry the most weight of all of the numbers. 22 does. 33, though, is Christ consciousness, so I'm kind of partial to that. If you've ever looked into human design, it's a system put forth by Ra Uru Hu. I cannot remember for the life of me what his original name was, but his birth name, but he died a few years ago. But before that, he came up with this system that employs not only planetary positions, but also the I Ching. And it's just a really interesting system. But one of the things it talks about is it gives like 5 personality types. And I'm a generator type. That's what most people are. My husband is a manifester, which is the next amount. You know, we've got a son that's a manifesting generator. So he's kind of a sort of a blend of both of us. And then another son that's a generator. But one of the things they talk about is the incarnation cross, and you can either be left angled or right angled, and they're all right angled, which means it's just a focus on stuff you're doing, learning, you know, for yourself here. It doesn't necessarily mean a self-oriented focus or a service to self focus. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you're focused on, you know, working on all your own spiritual issues here. And then there's the left angle cross, which is you've sort of done that and now you're here for others, and that's what mine is. Mine is the left angle cross of the clarion. And then, which brings me back to the whole Christ consciousness thing, because then they also divide it into like 16 different Godheads, and mine is Christ consciousness. So 33 holds a special place in my heart anyway, given my human design information. I just love that system, though. I like it maybe even more so than astrology. I just think it has. I love the I Ching, number one, and hooking them both together, you know, in some kind of organized fashion, to me is just so interesting. So, if you've never had a bodygram done, you can get a free one done over at jovianarchive.org. I believe they still do that there, and check it out. If you have an iPad, you can get an app for your iPad. There's different ones out there. I have the software, of course, because I include that when I do my lunar transits on the blog. So, you know, I use that, but it's just fascinating. I highly recommend it. So anyhow. But you can go over there to imsteppingaside.com and check out my blog and look for the lunar posts. And it's a little more than just lunar transits, so a little more witch oriented. This gives a lot of information if you're going to work magic. A lot of the times when we work magic, we like to consider planetary information and influences. So there's also stuff on elements and which mansions of the moon are active and all of that. So check that out if you want to. I'd love you to do that. Lots of things over there to look at. But in any event, let's get started. See what our first card is for today. Now, if it's your first time here, I'm going to count 13 and take the 13th card because I want this to be random. You know, any other time I'm just going to lay cards out. But for this purpose, I do it randomly. And I'll do either 3 or 4 cards. It just depends on how I feel and how things are going. And then I'll go and I'll reach into my rune bag and I'll take out a rune from the Elder Futhark. And then we'll follow up with and finish with a geomancy rune, which I'll create using the 4 elemental geomancy runes that I have created. I don't do it in terms of picking up a bunch of peas or lentils or stones or whatever and throwing them down and counting to see if I have an odd or even number. I just decided, yeah, that's just too much to do. So what I did was I created runes just like I do my runes. These are made out of hawthorn with a single dot on one side and 2 dots on the other. So I throw those down and create the rune. And we'll see what that has to do. Geomancy is an interesting thing. It's an old divination tool. It can be any number of things. It can involve ley lines. It can involve pendulum work. But in this case, it's just kind of invoking earth energies to just get an overall, or maybe an underlying, maybe not overall, maybe an underlying, idea for the day. So anyhow, let's get started and take our first card. Well, we have the 7 of Pentacles. We've been having a lot of Pentacles lately, a lot of issues of home and hearth. The earth element, it's about our practical side of self, everything about the mundane aspects of life, our home, our work, our finances, our ancestry, anything to do with the physical form itself, not having to do with intellect or emotions or will, is going to be the earth element. And so here you have what looks like my husband. We have 5 acres and we have about maybe 3.5 of it's pasture. And sometimes he'll just be standing out there irrigating, just stand there with his leaning on his shovel, just looking around, taking a break. 7 is about divinity. It's about the shadow side of self versus spirit, about balance, magic. But here we have a man who's just checking in on his harvest, isn't he? Kind of looking in on just how much he's made this year. In preparation for the future, isn't he? Just sort of taking stock, kind of letting things settle out. See where you are right now. Like, we have this much. Do we need more? We're in the process of harvesting right now some things, mostly herbal, but we're starting to get peas and we're starting to get zucchini and all of that. And but I've been doing a lot of herbal harvesting, a lot of red clover, a lot of just everything. I did a motherwort tincture that I'm going to write up. I'm going to do that probably today. Write that up on the blog. So look for that. And but some things are starting to come in. The tomatoes are growing. I went and I pruned some of that stuff out of there so the light could get to them, so they could start actually ripening. And I found 2 small ripe tomatoes, which I was just thrilled about. So I took those. I've been growing Roma tomatoes. I like sauce tomatoes. So I'm also growing this one from Baker Creek. It's a black tomato called Vermissage. And I'll keep you guys informed on what that looks like. But it's supposed to be somewhat black, and it also has stripes on it. And so I see the stripes right now, but things are still pretty green. but they're getting bigger and they're not aroma. So they're a round tomato, a slicer basically. So for salads and stuff like that. But I can't wait. I've got several of those. And they're supposed to be really yummy. So we'll see. So I really relate to the whole Seven of Pentacles. It's about taking stock. Where are you now? What else needs to be done? We're at the end of the month. Did you pay all the bills? So that's another thing we might be thinking about. Especially when we look at Pentacles, we think bills. Bills are coming due. So we take stock. What did I forget to do? What still needs to be done? What can I put aside and can I let this go and start on something new? So that's kind of the energy of the Seven of Pentacles. Let's do another card. Well, another seven, another version of it, Seven of Swords. Now, I have always considered this to be theft of intellectual property, but that's just because I'm a writer. I'm going to set my cards down. Let's talk about this, though. It occurred to me one day, though, that depends on the perspective here, how you want to look at this. Swords is the air element. It's our intellect. So this could be, you see the tents in the background. The soldiers are back there. Likely they left their swords out here. But this guy does not look like a soldier, does he? So he's either in disguise, he's either a spy, and he's coming along, and maybe this is at work, and maybe somebody is stealing your ideas. It could be something like that. And ideas have value, don't they? They're part of what made this. But in another reading, how I think I ended up interpreting this is leveling the playing field a little bit. Because if this guy is maybe from the town, and maybe this is these are the soldiers that are coming to, destroy the town and take everything and plunder and do all that they did back then. Maybe he's just trying to level the playing field. Maybe it's part of the townsman's strategy to try to protect themselves, reduce the armaments, reduce the effect, take away some of their advantage, and level that playing field. And when you think of it in terms of seven, that's really what this is. It's not so much theft of intellectual property, although it could be. That's a bias on my part, though, I think. But I really think that what the Seven of Swords is doing is it's trying to level the playing field here and maintain what you can and keep what you've got, basically. Maybe he's looking in the Seven of Pentacles. Maybe he's looking at all that he has and worrying about whether or not he's going to be able to keep it. So then either this is the same man in the Seven of Swords that, maybe some of his wealth is going to be threatened. Maybe his cost of living is going up. Maybe if he's a farmer, maybe it's describing the memory of what a crop looks like, because a lot of our farmers aren't having anything right now. And between the tariffs that they're being bribed out of not to look past, basically, between that and the weather and all the flooding and everything, there's farmers in this country that aren't going to be able to plant anything this year, and that's awful. They may not survive. These farms may not survive. I don't care what bailout they get. It may not be enough to keep that family farm going. And so if you look at it from that perspective, you could say then that the Seven of Swords is trying to come up with a different strategy to try to undo the damage that's being done to him by the powers that be. Because the 10 spec there signify the powers that be, doesn't it? Somebody with more armaments, more power, trying to usurp that they shouldn't be doing, right? Take things away from people. So maybe in the Seven of Swords, or it's not the swords, but the Seven of Pentacles, maybe you're thinking, oh, is this all I'm going to have? Is this it? So then maybe you want to come up with a different type of strategy. In this case, in the Seven of Swords, You need to do something to reduce the effectiveness of what's going on. It's like when somebody is, we had a situation where someone decided that they were going to trespass on our property and do things that they can't do, right? Well, we never sued them, but we could have and probably should have. Because here's the thing, if you don't do something, we chose to do something in a way that was just saying no, just not allowing it. Every time something happened, we put a stop to it. We didn't engage much. We just, because we couldn't believe it was happening, number one. We couldn't believe that this person was doing this, right? So it's like, what are you doing, man? Because it's not him that we would sue, it's his spouse, right? She's the one with the money. So that's who you sue. You go for the one that's got the money, right? The assets. So it's like, what are you doing? But we just kept that quiet pressure, just kept doing what we were going to do anyway. And ultimately, the whole thing stopped. He apologized, it all went away. But it's like, in the case of the Seven of Swords here, he's not dealing with this directly, is he? He's kind of in a sense he is, but in another sense he's not, because the soldiers are in the tents. They're all getting drunk, they're doing what they do, partying, being happy over whatever. They've either done something or they're setting up to do something. So we don't know that yet. But it could be that they've already done something to the townspeople. And now that they see what's about to happen to them, they're coming and they're going to level that playing field a little bit. Reduce the strategy, reduce the strategic advantage. So, if that's happening to you, say in your personal life, like it was happening to us, you have to figure out a way around that, don't you? If it's happening to you at work, or maybe someone's, stealing your ideas, you decide, well, I think we should maybe do this, and maybe you talk amongst yourselves with the coworkers and everything. And then all of a sudden, when it comes time to present it to the boss, suddenly, it's that person over there that does it. Always happens, doesn't it? Never fails. They take everyone's ideas, present them as their own, and the boss gives them the raise. Yeah. So it could be something like that too. But all of that, see, affects your bottom line, doesn't it? So you have to figure out a way to reassert your advantage, reassert your own strategy in the whole thing. Let's do another card though. Well, we have the Star. The 17th card of the major arcana. So there's a 7 there. A little synchronicity there, although it's an 8 energy. Here we wish upon a star, manifesting our dreams, basically. The purity of the goddess, kneeling on land, 1 foot in the water, pouring blessings into both. This is a card of spirit, of harmony, of balance, of manifesting our dreams. See, and that's, I think, what we're really talking about here. How we're manifesting our dreams is being threatened perhaps by somebody else's intervention. But the Star, we're talking here, the goddess is the blessed conduit between, the as above, so below nature of life, of spirit versus form. But as you can see with the very large star, the heaviest weight needs to be on spirit. So perhaps we could put the Star in between the 7s then. Perhaps you have a problem that's affecting your financial security. And then the star comes in and says that our dreams can become a reality. That whatever we've built here is still there. We just might have to be a little savvy in how we keep it, particularly if external forces are trying to threaten that. And here, we're going to draw one more card, I think. In this, we're bringing it all back to balance again, aren't we? Let's do one more card. But here we're talking about optimism and intuition and spiritual gifts. Again, bright prospects, dreams becoming reality. It's just that, you know, we don't want to do that by stealing. I mean, you could look at this as someone who's, again, a thief. But when you look at what he's stealing, is he really stealing, or is he just trying to gain the upper hand over somebody that's going to oppress him and maybe challenge or affect his own financial security? I mean, here we are. Our dreams are becoming a reality. We have a great harvest, and now it's being threatened. So, in other words, you could look at this in terms of if you're looking at it from a societal standpoint or from a larger than just your own home perspective, then you can look at that in terms of our dreams are being threatened by authority that's out of control, and that's oppressive, and that's wanting to take from all of us. 3 million food stamp recipients are being threatened as we speak. So there's that. So again, whether it's on a personal level, something about your financial security is being threatened here. The thing is that that's not going to last forever, and that we're still going to be able, with the presence of the star, it's telling us that we're still going to be able to manifest our dreams. Let's do one more card. We just got to keep our eyes open and aware of what, you know, might be trying to chip away at it and take it from us. The King of Swords, about justice. We had this last week. He doesn't quite look you in the eye. The sword is not straight up and down. So it's like the deceiver who tells you what they want you to believe. Just believe me. Don't believe, you know, your own eyes. Don't believe what you see. Just believe. It's like the abuser that abuses the wife and says, oh, you know, I love you. I'm sorry. I love you. And, you know, 10 minutes later, he's beating the crap out of her again. Oh, I love you. I'm sorry. Yeah, right. You know, I'm telling you what I want you to believe. Don't believe that. I mean, I'm hurting you, but I'm telling you I'm not. So you're supposed to believe that, right? Yeah. The sword's straight up and down. The King of Swords can be about deception. And I think that that's what we're looking at here. I think that that's the final, you know, little last, you know, clarification. Instead of him looking at you straight in the eye, he's looking just a little bit off, isn't he? Look at that. We noticed this last week. So he's not really looking at you in the eye. So it's like, you know, almost like he's got two fingers crossed behind his back. Believe what I'm saying, fingers crossed. Oh, I'm here to take care of you, as the sword is a little bit over. You know, there's no balance there in this guy. Kings are problematic that way. You know, you're talking about male authority, but you're usually talking about male authority that's a little more self-oriented than it is about, you know, service to others. So you have to be a little careful when the king shows up. But it kind of tells you, it reinforces the whole authority that's maybe a little bit askew right now, isn't it? In terms of the Seven of Swords. He's in the tense. It's like, oh, well, you know. But this guy's got another idea, doesn't he? We have Kenaz, the torch, the sixth rune of the Elder Futhark, the rune of openings, rune of awareness. It's another higher self rune, excuse me, a rune of spirit, of spirit informing the process. So we'll put Kenaz with the star illuminating here. And then it's that illumination, that awareness that allows the Seven of Swords to happen, where we're going to take back the power that's being taken away from us. And we're going to level that playing field, because we have a King of Swords that's not particularly honest right now. It's interesting, you know, because I have to say this, you know, there's the Tower card from the Thoth Tarot, or Thoth Tarot. It's the most amazing card, and I really believe that it is that it sort of describes the effect of the guy in the Oval Office right now. But the other thing is, I believe he's a Gemini, which makes him an air sign, which makes him, you know, elemental air, which is swords, makes him the King of Swords. This is a guy who wants you to believe what he wants you to believe, but everything he tells you is a lie. The sword is not straight up and down. There's no integrity. There's no dignity. It's a little like this, just like his eyes are a little bit over there. He's the Wizard of Oz. Ignore the man behind the curtain. Well, we can't, can we? Let's do a geomancy rune. We're doing pretty good on time here. So yeah, I mean, whether this again is taking a societal focus, or if this is just in your own personal life, you know, you may be experiencing some things right now that are threatening your financial security. Whether that's coming from things you're doing, or just circumstances, or your job, or whether it's, you know, the government itself that's affecting everybody. We're looking at a situation here where something is being threatened, but it doesn't have to be. There's still power that you have. You still have bright prospects, in other words. You can still manifest your dreams. You just have to take a different tack to this. You know, have a little bit different vision to it. Take a look at this. Take another type of look that's maybe a little bit more critical, from maybe a different perspective, and try to figure out a way to level that playing field so you're not as affected by the actions of someone else, whether it's your boss or a coworker or a neighbor or a friend or you know, whatever. Just make sure that you understand that there are other options available to you, and that this may not, that if you're savvy about it, it may not affect you as badly. So you may be able to stop whatever's happening here. So let's go ahead and see what we have. We're going to put these in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Okay, so we have a passive influence, 2 dots for fire. I'll take the light out of there for you. Sorry. 1 for air, 2 for water, and 2 for earth. Now, 2. Oh, I think that's a missio, isn't it? Is it? No. Rubeus. That's Rubeus. Okay, passions are high right now. Okay, let me find Rubeus here so I don't have to draw it out. Is it this one? Nope, that's Albus, the opposite of it. There's basically 8 geomancy runes, and if you turn them upside down or create their opposite, then what you have then is 16. And I was just drawing this out for everybody, but that's terrifying, so we won't do that. We won't frighten everybody today. Here's Vaya. No. Oh, well, there it is, the very last one. So this is Rubeus. So the only active influence in this particular geomancy rune is the air line. So it's the rest of it is all passive. So fire, water, and earth are all passive here. So this is intellect driving this whole passionate experience. It's also considered evil. And so basically, you're talking about a really bad guy in a sense. It can also simply be, if you just look at it in terms of energy, you can look at it in terms of passion, but it's passion that maybe is self-serving. It's not passion that is inclusive of other people, right? It's basically describing the King of Swords. So you've got some kind of a air influence here that's trying to be hurtful, basically. And if we liken that with the King of Swords, then it's an authority figure, whether it's the guy in the Oval Office, going after one of the most beloved Congress people of all times, Elijah Cummings. Oh, good Lord. Or it's whatever else is going on. I think that what it's telling us is that there's some really predatorial. That's the other part of Rubius. Depending upon how far it goes, it can be very predatorial in nature. And I guess, when you're looking at the Seven of Swords, I mean, that's really what you're talking about here. You're talking about a predatorial energy there in the back with whoever it is that's in the tents. And if it's being governed by an authority figure such as the King of Swords, who isn't going to tell you the truth anyway, then I would say that that definitely aligns with Rubius. But you have the strength of what you know already, your skill set. You have that. You also have bright prospects, and you have the ability to manifest your dreams into a reality, but you have to do that with eyes open. It's got to be eyes open. You've got to do it from the standpoint of spirit as well, instead of allowing the ego to run amok here, because that's what's happened here with the King of Swords. His ego has run amok, whatever authority figure that happens to represent for you. Whether it's the more immediate surroundings or whether it's the greater impact of what our government is having on everyone. So I guess you can probably look at this in two different ways. But given that we have an 11-day today, this is about illumination. And so whatever is going on here for you, whatever this is describing, because let's face it, it can describe a lot of different things, But what you need to do at the very minimum is maybe think about a different strategy. If something is threatening you today, if there's something going on, you're going to have to be a little more savvy about it. If it's a coworker that's causing you grief, that's taking your ideas, figure out a way to turn the tables on them. Do it in a way that allows them to show everything. Just get out of their way. In other words, let them hang themselves. If you're somebody that hangs back a little bit and maybe is a little hesitant to offer something, don't do that. Do something else. Step outside your comfort zone and be the one to speak up first. Especially if you know someone is given to doing that kind of crap, because that's all it is. It's a form of stealing. Again, intellectual property. But it's your ideas maybe that help you get that raise. It's your ideas that keep you employed. It's your ideas that keep you paying your bills. If someone's taking them, you can't allow that, can you? So this may also be suggesting step outside your comfort zone and try a new thing on, a new attitude, a new idea, a new way of doing something. Because never forget that the star is here, bringing things back into alignment. And if that's, talking about a situation that you're experiencing, it's going to be up to you to do that. You can't wait for it to happen. You can't wait for it to fall into your lap. Okay? This guy's not waiting around to find out what the people in the tents are going to do. He's trying to reduce their advantage to save himself and the people of the town. It's not fun in an adversarial relationship, is it? It doesn't feel good. But unfortunately, we're there, and we're often there, aren't we? Where we have to worry about what someone else is doing to cause us a bunch of grief. Be nice if everybody just focus on their own stuff and do their own thing and not bother anybody, but that's not what happens. People try to take. So if that's happening to you, then choose a different strategy around it. And maybe you'll be able to protect your own wealth, protect your own assets, protect your own stuff better. So that's interesting for a Monday. Well, I hope you all got to get out last night and watch the meteor shower. We didn't see very much. We came in, I don't know, about 11:30, so we weren't out after midnight when it was supposed to be the best. But we saw a few the last night, or the night before rather, and then we saw a few last night, but not very many. But they're going to be around here till I don't know how long in August, but uh, they'll be around for a little while longer. So maybe you get lucky if you go out like we do and look at the stars every night, and maybe you'll see something. We saw a lot of weird flying things in the sky that were not. There weren't any lights flashing on them, and they were too bright. I don't know what they were. I don't know that they were satellites. I'm not sure what they were. We saw some of that last night too, so that was interesting. So anyhow, well, groovy. Anyhow, I think that's gonna be it for today. And again, check out my blog over at Stepping Aside at imsteppingaside.com. Click subscribe here if you haven't, and come back tomorrow. We'll visit again and see what all this has to do with whatever's going on in our lives. Anyhow, you all have a wonderful day. Be good to yourselves, be good to one another, and blessed be.